This has been quite a couple of weeks for us. How was it for you? What happened for you this week? Let's say, where were you 2 weeks ago? Describe where you were maybe 2 weeks ago and where you are now. And then I'll ask you more questions after that.
2 weeks ago, I was feeling very inspired and excited about moving to the northern Idaho, Spokane area of Washington with you, and thinking that you and I together were going to accomplish several different objectives. And through the course of the last 2 weeks, I guess in doing due diligence on the area and the likelihood of accomplishing those things, it seemed less and less likely that all of our variables were going to be met with that move, and I started to feel very doubtful and unsure of my decision making. Enough so that I think we decided together to halt the process of moving and just kind of reassess and find my grounding. And where I am right now is just wondering if there's a part of me that was driven by a restlessness, a yearning to express myself in a different way, or to deepen my commitment to my own creativity. And if it was that restlessness that was driving a need to do something outwardly to make that feeling go away. I'm not sure. I'm
Okay.
living in the contemplation
That's good.
of that.
Could you share about? You said a little bit about this, but maybe you could flesh it out a little bit more about the emotional state you were in 2 weeks ago versus the emotional state you're in now, the feelings. You said maybe you could elaborate a little bit more just on the emotional experience from 2 weeks ago to now.
Well, I don't know how emotional I was 2 weeks ago. I felt more purpose driven. I felt more on task. I was doing a lot of logistical cleaning up and productivity and sorting, figuring out, using my analytical mind to go from A to B to C to D and just doing that. And now I'm feeling like I'm really deepening into what it is that I'm being drawn towards and why. And I still feel the inclination to want to move, to change environments. I'm not sure of the purity of my motivation right now.
How in touch with you are you with what you ultimately and truly want to do with regards to where you live and what you want to be doing where you live? Where you live and what you want to be doing where you live.
Yeah,
what is ultimately, do you know what you ultimately want right now? Or do you have
yeah.
What is that?
I'd like to be able to live 100% creatively, including recreation, including self-expression, including social expansion, expanding my social network, expanding my professional network, being able to do my craft, EFT, leading small groups, uh, bringing myself out in a
Well, I asked you again, where do you want to live and what do you want to be doing where you live? Let's just try to stick. Well, do you have any idea? The question is, do you have any idea of where you want to live and what you want to be doing where you live? So you answered some
yeah,
of it. You
I'd
didn't
like,
answer the
you
first
know,
one.
it's like
You answered the second
it's
one.
a two-part. There's a part of me that would like to develop my creative self, and for that I need large blocks of alone time to develop that. And there is a part of me that wants to expand my professional and social network, which would bring me out more. So I feel like a hybrid. I feel like I want to be able to incorporate both community and internal self-development through my own creativity, like either through speaking or through writing or a combination of both, where I'm expressing myself and I'm also interacting with my people and new people, where I'm bringing new people into my life and I'm deepening the commitment that I have with the people who are already in my life.
So do you know where you want to live right now? You know what you want to be doing where you live, but do you know where you want to live or not? It's okay if you don't know.
Well, I do. I am
Where
being
would you
drawn.
like to live?
I'm being drawn to Austin, which was part of where this self-doubt came in, because when I thought about moving to Spokane, in an area where I don't really have any anchor people or connector people, I started thinking about Austin again, where I feel like there are new developing relationships there that I'm very resonant with, and I would like to cultivate those. And so moving in that direction felt more resonant to me than moving in this beautiful location where I was not anchored into any community. And that's where the self-doubt and inability to follow through started creeping in big time.
Could you share what it is you learned from between the last 2 weeks? What did you learn about yourself and life and us?
Yeah, you know, the stakes are high, and I think when I get scared or feel doubtful, I can get defensive and go off into my own little world. And I don't really appreciate in those moments what being in a relationship is. I kind of break off from the relationship and go my own separate direction. And I don't really know all about that, only to know that I want to contemplate that more. It feels like it's a defense, that leaving the relationship is somehow defending me from, I'm not really sure all about that yet. I'm just now aware that it didn't feel like I was in it with somebody else, with you. It felt like I started feeling doubt, and that meant that I'm kind of in this by myself now. So I don't really know. I mean, I have to do more thinking about that, more looking at that, more contemplating about that. I'm not really sure.
So, could you share what was motivating you to move, to get as far along the process as you did, versus, or in addition to, fast forward to 2 weeks to now, how do you see it now? How do you see what you wanted
there was
then?
a lot.
No, let's start with, what is it that you wanted 2 weeks ago? Could you say
2 weeks ago, I was looking at upgrading the quality of my life in a magnificently drop to your knees, gorgeous environment where we could have a lot more value in terms of how and where we lived, and realize the equity in our house towards something that was much more valuable in terms of upgrading the quality of our lives. However, in the process of doing due diligence about that, It might not have been a good area to invest because it's an economically depressed area, and it certainly was a big variable in terms of the quality of the connection of the people, because I didn't really know anybody there and had zero relationships with people. So that became an important quality, is to have relationships with people who I trust and who I could create with, who I could network with, who I could expand community with. And that was a very big variable that actually freaked me out, to think that it could go in a direction other than in a perfect world, which I think is what was driving me, because it was so beautiful. I maybe underestimated the quality of community as being just as beautiful, and didn't really appreciate that it might not be. And that could be a train wreck, to take everything and just put all my eggs in that basket, and then still have some pretty big variables to have to contend with. So there was a lot of uncertainty, and I'm not really sure the driver of it, but it doesn't feel like it was as pure could be. Now that I'm looking at it, there are still those things. I still would like to upgrade the quality of my life, in terms of spaciousness and less traffic, less population, less people all around me. And I would also like to expand on the community aspects, on the workability of who's around me and how they're around me.
What does that look like in terms of action right now? What about now? So how do you want to proceed, and how do you feel about how you want to proceed?
Well, I'm liking the idea of moving into my house again in a new way. I like the idea of the front room of the house being used to hold small groups, and to think about myself in terms of promoting myself and getting more clients, more EFT tapping clients, individual sessions and small groups. I like that. I could see myself doing that here. I mean, it feels like I still am leaning towards discovering the right place, the right next place. And while I'm doing that, I can and feel good about deepening my commitment here. It feels more focused on what I'm going to do to bring myself out than it ever has. I feel more committed, or I should say a deeper commitment to putting myself out in environments that I would be sharing about what I do and what is available, how I could bring people together, how I could open up and expand my community right here.
What do you say to your thoughts or other people's input about this, meaning that you had an opportunity to take a chance and now it's over, you blew your chance, it's never going to happen now, that was it, you had a chance and you didn't seize the moment?
I could probably buy into that, have some self-defeating thoughts for a couple of minutes and recriminate myself over it. Like maybe that's true, maybe the market's going to turn, maybe the window's going to close, maybe indecisiveness is going to lead to my demise. I could, damned if I do, damned if I don't. There's some element of that, and yet I also could see that without a clear, crystal clear, to the best of my ability, understanding of where I, myself, and you, because we're doing this together, really see ourselves living. If one of us says no and the other says yes, it's still a no. And if the other one says no and the other one says yes, it's still a no. I think what's being called to here is to finding that place that we have not found yet, that is going to be the place, and to cultivate that intention, that possibility, that languaging, that conversation together. Because, you know, everybody's input, it was really good. It really brought out a lot of stuff that's been stirring. And I've been living in our house, so have you, for 30 years. So there's been a lot that's been dormant and not unearthed. And I think the process of packing up and donating and giving away and clearing out has unearthed some things that haven't quite fully been dealt with yet, in terms of a move, finding the place, realizing why, the big why, really being crystal clear about what that why is, what it means, and why it feels so purposeful. So in that way, the process continues. It's still a process, and I try